weird when we're not fixing things. Hello, everybody. Christine here. I'm okay. How's everybody doing today?
I'm also okay.
How are you? Okay, we're all okay. Mel, are you
fine.
okay?
Fine.
I went for a run today in 87-degree Fahrenheit heat, and I'm like kind of regretting that a little bit because my head is just. But I'm proud of myself. I ran. So
it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Did you have anything motivating you, like zombies or anything?
I have the Zombies Run app. I've used that before, but I thought I'd do something else. Daily Burn offered me like an annual. Yeah, there's an app called Zombies Run. You get your own little base and stuff. But this Daily Burn gave me like an annual membership for like $50, and I can stream it on my Roku and I can put it on my phone. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I just thought I'll try one of their running programs. Man, it wore me out. They're like, you might burn 200 calories. Man, I burned 436. I'm going to do this.
So the zombie one, does it like tell you, oh, zombies are going to kill you, and it gives you side effects or something?
It's like a podcast. You're runner number 5. And so you have to go to other places. They'll be able to like look and see if there's supplies. Well, there's a hospital that's down the way, and we need you to go there and to collect supplies. And so you're running. They're like, runner 5. We see a group of zombies behind you. Run faster. And you're like, and you can hear them in your ears, man. It's great.
That is crazy.
Great. It's like hyped up Pokemon Go.
And then you get on online base.
Yeah.
And then you collect supplies. Every time you run, your app picks up, you've just gained underwear. You just gained Band-Aids. And so you can use all of that for your little digital base. So it's like a game.
Motivating.
That was a perfect analogy of like definitely Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go faster.
It's scary zombies coming to get you.
Gosh.
Yeah,
and it's a whole story. It's a whole story. It's great.
Yeah. So. I actually did a 5K on Saturday. I'm pretty proud of it.
Oh wow!
Good job.
You're just blowing us all out of the water, Christine.
No, not at all. Rainbow cookies. Yeah. Okay, so this week we're talking about youth and innocence. I was sort of just thinking about how we talk so much as atheists about indoctrination and or as agnostics, whatever you call yourself. And I was like, well, there are good things about that and bad things. And some of the good things are you don't, get to play violent video games. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but maybe you're like sheltered a little longer so that you can like enjoy your youth and your creativity and your innocence. Maybe that's not true, but anyway, I just sort of wanted to get together and talk about what it meant for you to have your youth either A, like stripped from you, or B, like preserved for you. So, and how you feel about that.
I'm so excited to see Rachel again. I feel like it's like, oh, she's alive.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm alive.
It's so exciting. Wireless is back then.
No, it's not.
Oh,
my boyfriend's house.
Okay.
Yeah, it's magic. That's what it is.
Magic.
Oh, in recent news.
Goodness.
Scientist Mel.
Yeah. An interesting topic, youth and innocence. Because at my house, there was definitely some rules and regulations about what we could watch and what we could listen to. And some of my sisters did whatever they wanted, some more, some less. So I think my parents have like lessened over the years, but like they didn't like anything with magic in it. So there was a lot of Disney movies that we weren't allowed to watch. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely some popular culture things that I didn't see. Like I watched Harry Potter or whatever when I was in university. Yeah.
Yeah. So you waited. So I did too. So I didn't watch, do any of the Harry Potter. I didn't read the books or anything till I was out of high school. And it was funny because I was like starting to kind of stray. I strayed in a lot of other ways in high school, but I didn't, like I obeyed my mother when it came to Harry Potter. I was like, no, I won't read it until I'm 18. Oh, Lord of the Rings, my mom was like against.
My parents Yeah, Lord of the Rings is fine because it's written by a Christian. That's all fine.
Yeah. So I definitely, my mother did a good job with the magic. You know, she kept that away from me. This good, bad, whatever. But she was very consistent when it came to like magic things. She was like, "Oh, that's evil. That's magic." Evil was a big word. That's
Evil. Really long word.
That sounds like Wally.
evil.
I was trying to be more sinister, and it didn't work.
Aw, it just sounded adorable.
Nice. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I feel like the concept of evil is something that, does it really only exist in a religious context? Because I don't know, it's something that when people talk about like the concept of evil in like the psychology world of like, oh, we're going to look at these people who have done these awful things and we're going to call that act evil. I don't know. I'm not sure how widespread that term is taken seriously as a concept or as a construct that's like, this is what we're talking about. Because, I don't know, it's a very specific type of not good in the world that I think atheists sort of don't use that term a lot because it's, at least when we're talking to believers, because it really muddies the water. It's like talking about the concept of souls and things, but I don't know. When I've looked at these psychology things as a psychology major myself, it's like I just completely block the word out because it doesn't mean anything to me. But yeah, well, I don't know what you guys think about that. Maybe Science Mel has more of a scientific community input for that.
Well, I don't know. I have to say that the concept of evil, I think, is an actual thing, but it's not like a thing particularly that's for the spiritual people. You know, like we have, evil and good. I mean, there's a whole scale of evilness associated with certain serial killers that they use. I think, I can't remember. There was an entire documentary series. It was like a TV show based on one particular forensic psychologist, and he was developing the scale of evil, what is more evil and what is less evil in regard to different types of serial killers. Is there torture involved before they kill them? Are they raping the victims? Things like that. So psychological torture was taken into consideration. Was it, a quick kill? So that was what I was watching when I was bored
or like
and stuff.
like a crime of passion versus a in cold blood kind of thing.
So the more pain and torture and awfulness that you were doing to a person, the more evil he would put you on his scale. And he was going through and organizing all kinds of different serial murderers and that sort of thing.
So would that be like a sliding scale of intention to cause suffering and the actual outcome of the amount of suffering that is caused from that intention?
I think so, to a degree, yes. So there was one person, he had, and I think he finally passed away in prison. I think he was given life in prison. He had a Connex in his backyard that he called his toy box. And so his girlfriend would go and find women for him to bring back to him. So she actually was prosecuted, and she's spending time in prison as well.
Was that Paul Bernardo?
I think so. That might be it.
Carla Homolka?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah,
so
they're Canadian.
So he had his own quarantine. Y'all are on the map finally for not being nice.
Yeah.
Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo, I recognize that. Yeah, he did die in prison. She's out now, so that's
Oh,
neat.
she is. Okay. I think
Carla, is that the one that had the movie about it?
Maybe.
It was like a dramatization of it, not a documentary, but it was the girl from that 70s show. Was Carla.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the girls did get away. You're right, man.
Yeah. So
that's exactly who it is.
That was pretty terrible.
They fell out. They were like around a 5 or a 6, something like that, on the scale of evil, my recollection. But it's a bit fuzzy. But do check that out. So I think it's a thing, but it's varying degrees, and evil's a spectrum, guys.
I don't
Right.
know if my parents would have said that something was evil, and so that's why we couldn't watch it. It was like this shows like it's not a good influence. So if there was like anything sexual, like no, we can't watch that. If there was like smoking or something like or alcohol, it's like no, we can't watch that. But I don't know if she used that term. It was just like this is something that God doesn't want you to watch. Like it might make you think lustful thoughts or like
Make you want to do things that are in the video.
yeah. Though like most of the movies that we have are explicitly Christian movies. Like we have non-Christian movies too, but most of them are like either Christians doing things, you know, with their lives or whatever, or like there's like a message in the movie. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's sort of a narrative now of like not only do these groups not want children or anybody to be engaging in these behaviors, no matter what they are, but like they're against the normalization of it. They're against the like the representation of it being something that's okay. Things like gay relationships or premarital sex and things like that. It's an interesting like shift from, oh, we just don't want our kids doing this in our personal lives versus we don't want this to have like an impact on other people, that it's okay. Like that it's something that should be happening in the world or is passable.
Yeah, I mean, I had a weird childhood, so I don't know. My dad, I'll just throw it out there. My dad went like, you know how some people, when they get into a thing, they like get way into it. Like we were talking about Pokemon Go at the beginning. So if somebody suddenly is like, Pokemon Go, we have to go. And suddenly they want to do it every single day with you. And if you've been doing it for like years or something, you're like, I really don't want to Pokemon Go. Like, well, my dad decided to get uber Christian. Like, you know, it's probably, I think it was around 10 or 11 or something. He decided we were going to be the most fantastic uber Christians that ever walked the planet, which meant that we were going to completely just throw out the New Testament. We were going to have Jewish diets. Okay. He didn't want us eating pepperoni. We had to eat kosher food because he felt like that was really important. And then he also decided that every single Sunday we could only watch Christian things because it's the Lord's Day and we got to make it holy. I had Jesus action figures because we weren't allowed to play with any toys except for religious toys.
Jesus action figures? I'm sorry. I didn't know there was such a thing as Jesus action figures.
They're like Catholic ones.
I had a Mary and I had a Joseph. Mary could be pregnant, so you could shove baby Jesus up in there.
Oh my
belly, and then
oh, that's so weird.
I had a David and a Goliath.
Oh my gosh.
I had a David and Goliath.
I'm on Amazon right now. I need that.
And he had like a slingshot and everything. So we were trying to like hit like how we gonna hit, you know, Goliath in the head. I had that. It was really, really hard because we weren't brought up that way from very, very little. It's like he just decided all of a sudden we were going to be, and he was like a music minister too. My dad could play like 6 instruments and, you know, so he wrote songs and he was part of a band at one point. So it's like all of this, you know, and he's like, we're super Christians. I'm like, but do we need to be? You know, like, and so, but here's the thing. My dad, he had loopholes. All right. He had loopholes. He decided that we could watch Star Wars on Sunday because we could pretend that the Force was the Holy Spirit and that Vader was the devil and Luke Skywalker was kind of like Jesus.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
if we went that route, you know,
That's
and
funny.
we actively made it into a Christian film, then we were allowed to watch Star Wars as much as we wanted. So that's what I pretty much watched every Sunday for about a year.
I think you could draw that analogy definitely with Lord of the Rings, especially with like the Christian writing of it, but also like Chronicles of Narnia for sure.
Yeah.
That's like explicitly parallel.
Old. We didn't have those yet, so.
And like Harry Potter. There's a lot of
Harry
parallels there, I think.
My
I feel like
I
there's
wouldn't
there's
be allowed to
there's
watch
like the
that.
concept of like prophecy and like the chosen one, and there's a lot of like
I wouldn't
parallels,
have
I
been
feel
allowed
like.
to watch that at
Well,
all.
just the witchcraft, like, puts it.
Yeah, I
Mm.
wouldn't have been allowed to watch that unless my dad really liked it and he decided he was going to make it. That's exactly what would happen.
Did anybody else watch VeggieTales? Because
Yes.
I know, like, that came out in the 90s, like when I was a kid. So, I mean,
Yeah.
She's an ex. Is she showing us
Add
to
to
this?
cart. This is David.
Oh my god.
Yes,
great.
I had that.
Oh, that's so crazy.
I didn't know what
It's so
to do with
funny.
them. I put them in the car and have them drive
God.
around and go and watch Star Wars with me. That's literally what I do. Mary and Jesus are going to watch Star Wars with us, Dad. Okay, that means God is here. It's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
$50, man. Look how happy he is. Look at Jesus.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah.
pumped about life.
do you still have that, Mel? You could make some money.
I have no idea where they are. They're probably in a box in my mom's attic or something, or maybe my brother took them. There's no telling. My brother is really, really, really religious. For all I know, he's probably got them and given them to his kid. So
I got to stop being obsessed with this because this is my new favorite thing is looking up Bible action figures.
well, just like
That's
I'll send you
hilarious.
some links to some videos that I had to watch. That was made by Hanna-Barbera. That was all about Jesus.
Oh,
And
love me some Hanna-Barbera.
it
What is that?
It was.
Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can't remember. I was talking about.
Hanna-Barbera did they did like the kids that fall into the hole and then end up in old Bible times. And
Oh.
Yeah,
Stones. I know that.
yeah.
And
I
Yogi
didn't see that one.
Like
Oh, maybe-
Outlander? I'm sorry, I've just recently started that, so it's in my head.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
but VeggieTales, I didn't. I think
Rate
it
it.
was a little bit old, or I didn't care.
Okay.
I'll
I
send
remember
it.
VeggieTales very vividly.
My family, we have like, I think almost all of the VeggieTales movies.
I've
Ooh.
never seen a single episode.
Really?
No, never.
That's like my
They're-
childhood.
They're
I'm too
so
old, though.
they're
I'm really
so
old.
painful. Like
I'm sure
they're so painful to
they
sit through.
existed when I was the age where you'd be watching veggie. I know that my younger sister watched them. She's in her like mid-ish 20s, almost mid-20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
same
like
as
the
me.
music. Some of the music was like stellar. I liked
just-
I liked the cheeseburger song.
Well, okay, so I say painful. I don't remember if I liked them particularly when I was little. I think I remember watching them and not liking them as much as I liked, the Magic School Bus or Bill Nye or something. But it's funny to watch them as an adult because not only are they like frustratingly for children, so they're kind of annoying as it is, but they're also like indoctrination of religious
yes.
ideas. So
Right.
like
So
for
there's
me,
one-
they're
yeah.
painful to watch as an adult.
I think they say one of the things, like they made this distinction that they didn't say that they love. So like a lot of cartoons will say, "We love you," and VeggieTales would say, "We just want you to know that God loves you," and it was like,
Mm.
God
was
made you
weird.
special and he loves you very much.
Right,
At
yeah.
the end of every
Oh my God.
episode.
and yeah. So I don't know. Is that
That
bad,
falls
or-
right in the line of innocence too.
definitely
Like
Of what?
of
You think
what we're
that,
talking about like innocence and childhood. It
Yeah.
falls right in there.
If you want a fun little rabbit hole to go down, I sent you a link on Twitter, Shannon. It's The Greatest Adventure. That's the cartoon. That's the
Talking
Hanna.
about.
Yes.
That's what I was talking about.
Moses one
Those
is
were really
kind
good.
of racist. The Moses
Oh, I
one
didn't know. I
is
didn't know that.
kind of racist. So I sent you the Moses one, Shannon. Have fun with that.
So okay, so
I watched this in Sunday school.
Right?
Oh, I've seen these.
Yeah.
Exactly
Yeah.
what the hell this
They
is.
call the little boy who is brown. They call him Monkey, and
I know
Oh no.
exactly what
It-
Go
it's
back
kind
in
of-
time. Yes. Oh my God. Yes, we watched it in Sunday school.
yeah,
Wow,
it's
no,
a
no,
little-
we have those on VHS. We have the Adam and Eve one. We have the Goliath one.
Oh,
Now I remember. But yeah, it's because they're on VHS, so they're in like some tub somewhere.
Oh
We
Yeah.
don't have them on DVD, so I don't remember.
Mel, can you
Didn't remember.
send it to the chat so I can put it up on the chat so people can see what the ridiculousness is that we're talking about.
Like they went on an archaeological dig or whatever, didn't they?
Yeah, they started.
And then they fell.
yeah.
And then they fell. And then the doors opened up, and there's like a bright light.
I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
Yeah,
Wait, are we still talking about VeggieTales?
No,
It's another show.
Oh, okay.
I remember the Noah's Ark one.
Oh God.
yeah, they're so I've got it in our side chat here. This is one of the videos. That's the Moses one, so have fun.
enjoy it.
I'll have to go look that up.
I'm gonna watch it now with brand new eyes. It'll be funny watching it now with entirely new eyes, because at the time I remember being a little bit like, scared, like God-fearing, and also like, it was a cartoon and I was a younger kid, so slightly enthralled by it, which I suppose is the point.
And the whole slavery thing is really upsetting. Like watching this, you're just like, wow.
Yeah, I remember the snake was pretty scary.
It's a way to make horrible, horrible, horrible stories palatable to a child so that you can get them in their head.
Well, okay, so let's talk about this for a second, because I was allowed to watch movies like King of Kings and the 10 Commandments, and King of Kings is like gory, and there's one point when the story where Herod's lady friend asked him to put John the Baptist's head on a plate, and you just like see the head on a platter, and like that wasn't faze me, it was like fine. So it was like,
it's just biblical.
It's just biblical. It's no big deal. It's just a head. But I think beheading, think about like how when I was a kid, beheading was like something that was commonly like talked about, not like all the time, but like in like history and in our youth history classes and with John the Baptist. And
think about that though. Think about that our parents had absolutely no issue introducing us to genocide and murder and like all kinds of reprehensible concepts when they were couched in the scaffolding of the Bible, and taught them to us as though they were true stories. So we had to reconcile
like
that.
Good stories,
right? And
a lot of the time
of virtue, but we weren't allowed to watch people kissing. And when we knew it was a story, or people getting killed, when we knew it was pretend. So we couldn't watch pretend awful things, but we're forced to watch awful things under the guise that they were in fact real. How is that protection of innocence? That's corruption.
Even like I went to a Catholic church, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it was the first time I'd been to church in a while. And I didn't grow up Catholic, so I'm not used to seeing the crucifix anyways. But I remember like just looking at it during the service and being like, there's like, children here. It's the same thing. Like even like the main story in Christianity is like a gory mess. And it's like,
Going
it's
to
like what you're
passion
saying.
plays when I was little. Oh my God. When I was little, going to passion plays, that was kind of traumatic for me.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because they get into it and it's just like, what are you doing? So when you're little, it's extremely traumatic. They have like what we call Six Flags Over Jesus out here. Huge
What is
mega
that?
church. It's a huge mega church. I'll send it to you guys in the chat, but it's probably the size of a mall, the size of a shopping mall.
Of course it
They
is.
put on elaborate passion plays and Christmas shows. They charge tickets for them. So you have to pay to go to the show, but they'll always have standing room only in the back for anybody who wants to come for free. So how nice of them.
There's also the whole Hell House thing is so traumatizing for children. And that's the point.
Yeah. We had this movie where it was I think like a video of a play, but it was like I forget the name of it now, but yeah, it was pretty traumatizing. It's like it's like those skits. I don't know if you guys have seen them, where it's like somebody's just like having fun or whatever, and then they, just not realizing that anything's an issue, and then they go to hell, and it's like terrible. Like I don't think I was as traumatized as many people were, but I had that a little bit, and yeah, that's like pretty scary for a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does everybody know what the hell houses are? Or maybe I
Oh
should just
God, they
mention it
make
for the
me
viewers.
so
So is it
mad.
Can I guess?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think Heather has talked about this before, but I'm not sure. Is this when they like do like a passion like story, like a skit, and then at the end they're like and this where like they say you're gonna go to hell if you do this or whatever, and then at the end they're like, well, now you can come up and like pledge your life to Jesus, kind of thing. Like, is it that?
Yeah.
Like that.
So they'll shoot an actual gun from blanks to show us a kid coming to school that's bullied and killing other children, and he goes to hell. And then you have like a girl who signs up to have an abortion, and then she backs out of that, and the doctors hold her down and force the abortion. And they also like have this giant like piece of liver that's like the size of a child and bloody, that's like actual meat, that they just create this scene of like, this is what this looks like. And then she goes to hell for having forced an abortion. And then a girl is like raped and she goes to hell because she must have like provoked it. And it's just horrifying.
And they do this in
Horrifying.
lieu of, like, the
Have you seen
Halloween haunted houses. Like, this is the
God.
Christian alternative to like a haunted
And
house.
and the male perpetrator of that abuse doesn't go to hell.
No, he doesn't.
She does.
He asks forgiveness.
Like,
Is that-
whoa.
I didn't see any that are like that. That's crazy.
Well, I went to one as part of our atheist group when I went to UCA. We had the UCA Freethinkers, and we debated for a long time whether we should pay the money to get the tickets to go see it. And we ended up just saying, well, okay, fine, we'll just pay the money and go, because we didn't want to be supporting it, but we did anyway. So we had like maybe 20 of us go through the whole thing, and oh my gosh, it was horrifying. And they have like an actual gun go off that's really loud in a tiny room, and a bunch of so you go from room to room and you see these different skits that are really dramatic, and like a girl writing in her diary that everything's too much for her and she's going through depression and she kills herself and she goes to hell, and there's just a bunch of really horrifying scenarios that are so unfair. And then you walk through hell at the end of them, and it's this terrifying haunted house scene that's like red, and there's creepy zombies that are in cages, and they're just like, they're contorting their bodies and they look really creepy as fuck. And then like chains and everything, and then you go through those doors and there's this like white room with this presentation about Jesus can save you from all of this. And then like, so they have this whole presentation, and then you walk through these doors at the end of the presentation that have like light shining in them, and there's this final room with like preacher guys who can talk to you about what you just saw and say, hey, does anybody want to talk about whatever? And us like 20 atheists were like, yeah, we want to fucking talk to you. It was, oh my God. Oh, so much wrong with it.
I went through one of those still as a believer, actually, at one point in time, when I was very heavy Christian and religious. And I was going through that. They had one scene, they had the scene like the abortion. They had the abortion scene. The first scene was a funeral for a gay man who died from HIV related illnesses. They said he was going to hell, and his mother's crying. It's like, look at his mother. His mother's crying, and she knows that her son's burning in hell right now. And I'm just like, oh my God. So I'm like walking through this. I'm like, this is horrible. Like the whole time, I'm just like, this is wrong. Like, and then they had this car crash, this car wreck scene. Oh, this person's dead because they were drinking and driving and they're going to go to hell. And, and this person didn't pray before they died in the car accident, so they're going to hell too. And then, so they had like, it was very similar to what you went through. And then you get to the end where you're in hell and there are all these people, they're like, I should have listened, so they're all like screaming and crying about how they didn't, listen to God and Jesus and take it. And then you end up in heaven and Jesus is there and he's holding the baby that was aborted and saying, see, you're my child. And I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
So I remember thinking I think it was 15 when I first saw, the Leonardo DiCaprio version of Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So
I remember
such a formative sexual thing.
So I remember watching this movie, and at the end, like bawling because I'm like, they went to hell for each other.
Oh my god.
I just thought it was so beautiful that they were like willing to commit suicide. I couldn't heart.
That's such another level, and it's nice that you actually thought that was sweet too. Like, and that you didn't say like, "Oh, the dumbasses," you know.
Oh,
That's so sad.
it just up the level of romance.
It's like eternal sacrifice.
Exactly. Eternal. They really loved each other.
At least they were together.
Yeah,
Tortured together.
that's. Well, yeah, did you ever see that Robin Williams movie?
What Dreams May Come? It's like my favorite.
God,
Yes.
I watched it
I
twice.
love like the
Can't do
paint and everything. It's amazing. The visual stuff is beautiful.
I will
Now I
never
want to watch that movie again.
I can't do it.
I still cry. So I've seen it like 8 times because it's one of my top 5. And I still cry every time. Like,
Well,
What's it called?
what dreams make? It's not wet dreams make up. It's what.
I haven't watched very many Robin Williams movies since he passed away because I'm still mourning that loss.
Yeah.
God,
I feel you.
I felt that to my core.
Mhm.
You know, he is an amazing artist. So it's just, and I've seen What Dreams May Come twice. I'm like, yep, nope, can't do it. I'm done. Like, I have a soft heart, and that stuff just wrecks me for weeks.
Yeah.
So who brought it up?
Me.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying because you were talking about the depiction of movies and
Yeah.
and that's
But
such an
tell-
interesting like concept.
Right. I love the quote when oh my God, who is his son plays his son in the movie. But as is it
I can't
I
remember.
can't think of who it is. But anyway, he says like Robin Williams says like, where's God in all this? And I have to look it up now. And the character says, up there somewhere looking down on us, screaming that he loves us. And he's like, I don't know,
God.
something like that is what he said. Like, even in heaven, they didn't know where God was. And I just thought that was like a really cool, like, idea.
That is interesting.
Right. Like, it's a neat, if there's an afterlife, I wouldn't mind it being full with paint and all those nice things. It's nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like his daughter ends up being the beautiful stewardess that she saw once. She's like transformed into this woman who she sees once in her life and thinks she's so beautiful. And like in heaven, that's her body. Like she becomes
her dad said Asian women are so beautiful and so graceful, and that's why it's really sweet.
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet.
Brilliant film. And it's also Shakespeare. This is the second, well, not Shakespeare, but it comes from What Dreams May Come from, the soliloquy, I think, right?
I think so.
To sleep, perchance to dream.
Oh,
In that sleep of death, what dreams may come. Yeah.
I see.
Look at me looking all.
The only reason I know that quote is from the comedy bit of Bo Burnham.
Oh, okay.
From one of his Netflix specials.
Oh, it's Cuba Gooding Jr. That's what I thought. I just don't want to.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great. Oh, great movie.
I'll have to watch that. I haven't seen it.
Oh, please do.
Oh God, it gets you a box ready, just in maybe a crying towel to just sob.
Yeah.
Put my number on speed dial so that when you're sobbing, I can be like, I get it.
Yeah, this is also off topic. I'm sorry, but there's one more movie that like it does that to me. It's called About Time.
Oh,
Oh my God, it's on Netflix, and my DVD sort of skipped toward the middle, so I found it on Netflix too. But oh my gosh, it's Rachel McAdams and one of the redheads from Harry Potter, Charlie. I don't remember his name, but the cast is magnificent, and it's kind of a British movie, but it's a love story, and it's about making the most out of your life and really taking it all in and enjoying your life and making the most of it. and that's it really gets to people, and it's, you know, it has some of the like father-son relationship in there too, but that's really what it's about. It's about enjoying life, even with all like the worries and everything that comes with it. Being able to kind of set that aside and just enjoy it, and it's gets me every time. Gets everybody I watch it with. They just become a pile of tears, and it's amazing.
Oh, and it's a time travel movie.
Yes.
I'm in.
Yeah. On Netflix, called About Time.
We definitely
so
have
many things to watch tonight. I have to watch Hanna-Barbera's Noah's Ark. I have to
Watch Good
That's
Omens.
cute.
Oh my God. If you can watch anything, watch Good Omens. It is amazing. I've watched the entire series twice now.
There's so many things I have to watch.
Good Omens. Oh my God. It's brilliant.
I think it's kind of funny that when you talk about youth and innocence, oftentimes it goes, or at least in terms of Christianity, the conversation goes to media and deprivation and sort of like what you didn't get to see and what you had to watch. This is something Heather and I have talked about, how like it's outside the scope of that. Can we think of things like outside of media? I mean, maybe different media, maybe like books or something.
I wasn't allowed to go to certain places. And actually, when I was being brought up, they actually frowned upon you going to movie theaters if they were anything other than G-rated films. And they would talk about that. They didn't, if you were out and about.
Satan had place there? Was it like...
Huh?
Was it because like Satan was there?
Well, just, you know, anything that wasn't Christian or gospel or religious, anything that was secular was kind of frowned down upon. We actually had somebody, they were touring around talking about music. This time it was about music. And they had this person come in and was speaking about all of the different musicians that were influenced by Satan because of what they sang about. So one of them was Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is influenced by Satan because he had a song called Part-Time Lover, which is encouraging to adultery. You know, it encourages adultery.
Oh my God.
Whitney Houston was another one. I forgot what that was. Oh, The Greatest Love of All. That ticked them off because it wasn't about loving yourself. You're supposed to love God first. So Whitney Houston was influenced by Satan because of The Greatest Love of All.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, imagine me sitting through this going, what? I'm a teenager going.
But that's such a positive message.
But no, it's not, because you cannot love yourself first, because that's terrible. Right. It's joy. Jesus, others, and yourself. Do you not know that?
It worries me that like positive messages like that are, you know, like there's it's so difficult to get those out there to begin with, but to have certain groups demonize them as something negative, it's not helping anybody.
I could understand Marilyn Manson, you know, like, this is sacrilegious. Well, okay, sure, I get you there. But, you know, like, Whitney Houston is influenced by the devil because of this one song. And you're like, but really?
It's all about discouraging independent thought and self-reflection. If you start to have more independent thoughts and become self-reflective, then that's dangerous. That's when recidivism starts to come in. You need to be able to control what people see so that their perceptions don't change, so that they stay with you.
It's so strange.
I think that's also true politically.
It's true in a lot of ways. In a lot of places where they look
less educated.
They're looking to manipulating you into believing a certain path, or to following a certain path, or to staying with a certain group. All of those types of groups tend to be very deterministic and control access to things like media. And not only just control access to things like media, the biggest thing for me was other people that I wasn't allowed to get with, activities that I wasn't allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to do things in groups. I wasn't allowed to, like, if everybody else is going to the mall, I wasn't allowed to go to the mall. You need to study. Like there's no need for you to be doing that. People are just going to be socializing and doing bad things, and you don't need to be doing bad things. So you stay here, you study, like don't get to go out and do those types of things. Like behavioral control was a big thing. It wasn't even just media control or media consumption control. With me, it was behavioral control. Like you don't get to do this. You don't get to talk to these people. Like my parents had to answer the phone first before I was allowed to answer the phone to know who was calling. There was very strict timelines on when I was allowed to take phone calls and when I was not allowed to take phone calls. No one was allowed to call between the hours of, I believe it was like 5 and 7, because that was dinner time. Even if we didn't eat dinner together, that nobody was allowed to call during that period. I had to be off the phone by 8 p.m. So that leaves an hour to have phone conversations. And I had to let the phone ring twice so the call minder would kick in. And after the call minder kicked in, somebody other than me had to answer the phone. I couldn't be the one to answer the phone to let me know whether or not I was allowed to take the call.
That's insane.
Goodness. So I have a question for you guys. Does anybody else's parents make you write scriptures over and over and over again as punishment?
No.
Ugh.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's why I went to Bible quizzing to state 3 years in a row. I went to Bible quizzing and made it to state 3 years in a row. Didn't get there for the Genesis, but Matthew, Acts, I forget the other one. One of the other ones, Exodus. Matthew, Acts, and Exodus. I went to state for those 3 books.
Wow, that's a
for
thing.
Bible quizzing. That is the thing. And I got trophies and everything.
Oh, wow.
And atheists haven't read the Bible.
I mean, we had to write scripture, but it wasn't punishment for us. It was
we had to memorize stuff because I went to a Christian school, so every once a week or something they'd tell us. I don't know. It was always the same thing. And it wasn't a lot. It was maybe a small paragraph. And we had to memorize that word for word from this version that we were using in the class and then write it out. They just give us a paper and we had to write it.
I still have the only thing I think I took from that was 1 Corinthians 13, right? Love.
Yeah. I don't know if I remember all
men
of
and
those.
angels and have not love. I am of no one. No one.
I
love chapter.
Oh,
It's
man.
13. I know the whole thing.
Is that the love is kind
Love is
thing?
patient, love is kind, love does not. I don't remember.
Ghost, yeah.
If someone starts saying a verse, I can finish a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're all very familiar, but not all of them are
do or do not.
There is no try. Very
There you
fun.
go. The force is with you. And also, may the force be with you. And also with you.
You know, I heard my dad say that, but I never knew that was a scripture.
No, it's not. It's not. In the Catholic faith, they say, may the love of God be with you. And they say, and also with you. And so when somebody says, may the force be with you, I say, and also with you.
Oh, my God.
And then you shake their hands.
Peace be with you. Yeah.
You know what? No, what his quote, it was a Star Wars thing, because it was there is no try or something.
Do or do not, there is no try. That's a
It was
Star
the Yoda
Wars,
thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yoda.
got it. I thought so. I was like, that would blow my mind if that was a scripture.
I still haven't seen
You
Star
know,
Wars. I have to watch.
probably interpreted that way in one of them, so we're like, oh, this Star Wars was derived from this particular chapter of the book. This correlates,
Yeah, but back to what Shannon was saying about friends. I remember breaking off friendships with people because they were into things that weren't within the expectations of me and my family, and specifically not being religious or not behaving in a way that suggested that they were actually religious. I remember feeling like there was an expectation that I couldn't be friends with people who weren't religious, and feeling really bad about that, but also it must have come off as so high and mighty and judgmental on toward them. But for me, it was really devastating because they were my friend, and I felt like I wasn't, it was an expectation from God that I wasn't allowed to have that friendship. And it wasn't really a judgment on them. It was more just I don't think I'm allowed to do this.
I think I was that friend for a bunch of people.
Yeah.
You were the one that was testing their friendship versus faith dichotomy.
I love her, but you can't go to her house.
That's so sad. I went to all Christian schools, so everyone around me was the same like belief system. I mean, they probably weren't, and they all came from different backgrounds. But as far as I knew, they believed what I believed. So
Yeah. So I was in Christian school, and we all came from sort of the same background, but we had different classes.
yeah,
So, yeah. No, I mean, like, I was very poor, and there were kids there who had more money than God. And so the class differences were apparent in terms of like, goodness. For example, I got like 12 weeks eventually of in-school suspension. And there was a kid who also did a similar act.
What did you do?
I heard this story.
What did you do? I need
Get
to know what
ready.
you did to get 12 weeks.
I was just making out with somebody in a van.
Making out in a van. Okay.
Down by the river.
Like couple vans, many vans. Anyway,
All the vans.
all the vans. So fun.
Every van we could
One person or lots of people, and were drugs
One.
involved?
Just one. Just
One person, no drugs.
No, like, I mean, most of my class actually thought I had sex way before I did, because of all of that. So there were a lot of rumors about me that were not true or cool.
Yeah.
So
But you were the cool kid. She
No,
was making out with the
I
dude.
was not a cool kid. Not like now, of course.
She was like the Scarlet Letter, I think, right? Is what you were kind of describing.
Yes, and it felt like
her
that.
school.
It definitely felt like that. But there was this other kid who was from like a better like home and a better like class, he's in a higher class. I don't mean higher classes in like a senior, although he was older than me. But and he did similar stuff and didn't get in trouble because they knew like his dad would like, beat him. Like be just so furious so there was this difference in like, well, let's just shame this one person, but like because we know this person is gonna have punishment that's like way worse, then we're not gonna like talk about this, and like what, like so the school's allowed to punish me, but when it comes to like somebody else, you like leave that to their parents. I was like, what is that? Like there was a lot of confusing. Yeah, there was a lot of confusing. Yeah, it'd be
Like
funny.
favoritism.
Girls get way worse treatment and I have a story about a kid really quickly. And so I used to teach biology out here, and there was one girl. Oh Lord. She had apparently done a train on a bunch of football players in the locker room, and she actually contracted syphilis.
Wait, what? She had done a train?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Well, they line up, and she performs oral one after another.
Oh my God.
In the locker room of the football player's locker room. And so she ended up contracting syphilis, or she already had it and gave it. I'm not certain the details, but I felt horrible for her because she had it. She was breaking out on her mouth. And so they had found out after the fact that this had happened. She was suspended. The boys were suspended, but the way that her classmates had treated her, she had to go to a completely new school. They were brutal to her. And then I, of course, had to discuss in every class for about a week that you can't get syphilis off of a toilet seat. And then there's this other girl in the class, and she goes, "You're wrong, Miss Melody, you're wrong." I'm like, okay, what's wrong? She goes, "My mama is in prison, and that's how she got her syphilis." And I went,
oh
okay.
God.
We're gonna like not talk about this again.
Yeah.
Going,
Yeah.
I don't really want to have this conversation about how your mama got syphilis in prison.
God, I don't know how I would deal with that kind of situation as a teacher. Like,
yeah,
it's kids doing something like that. That's insane to me.
Yeah. Well, this is another question. It was kind of funny because the other day, and this is totally like being the adult and having youth and innocence like in front of us, it's sort of this like flip. Like the other day we went to a friend's house, and this friend was like, yes, sometimes we say grace. And I like look at my daughter and I'm like, I don't think she knows.
Who said that? Your daughter?
No. Like the person that I went to their house, and they sometimes say grace. They're like, they're very Christian. Well, they're very believing. They don't call Christian, right? But it was so strange just thinking of my child never having said grace at dinner. And it was like this crazy like flip in my head. And I'm like, am I preserving her innocence? Am I preserving that sense of thankfulness, in the same way that I sort of got that? So there are good things, I think. The fact that you had to sit down at dinner and think about something good about your day. And then,
why are you intertwining them as intrinsically tied to one another though? Like they're mutually exclusive.
No, you're right. And certainly I could do that with her without the prayer, but it was it just like blew my mind. Like my daughter doesn't know how to pray. Like she's not like in a group of people, she's not going to bow her head and close her eyes. That's like foreign. And for me, it was like embedded, it was crazy, that switch. Like, whoa, like,
she doesn't know what this is. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of the schools out here, though, the teachers, one school that I worked at, even though it's not technically a church school, they prayed at everything. They'd pray at teacher breakfasts. They'd pray during teacher service. They'd pray at the graduation. They'd pray, all the freaking time. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. They're like, okay, so now so-and-so, do you want to come up here and lead the teachers in a prayer? And I'm like, wow, y'all do that here. Okay. So this is how we do it at this school. All right. I'm just going to sit here and just kind of, okay.
Is that even illegal in a public school?
Yes. It's very illegal.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So I remember my third grade teacher prayed at a Thanksgiving dinner, like really fast, and I was like, isn't that not allowed? And she's like, it's traditional for like, because it's a Thanksgiving dinner, like the Pilgrims did it, so we can.
Way to get away with it.
They also had smallpox blankets, but we're gonna. Oh gosh, guys, did you see that there was in the news a history teacher or something decided to do a lesson on slavery and decided to take all of the African American children, well, a big chunk of them, and treat them like they were at a slave auction.
What?
I know. This happened in a classroom. And the white kids were bidding on the black children. And
That'd be really traumatizing.
Oh my God.
That is a horrible idea.
It is a horrible idea. It happened. Look it up. Google that.
I don't want to. There's enough shit on the internet already pissing me off. I just thought I can't.
Do a video about it.
Angry.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's terrifying.
It's a terrible, terrible idea. Just because it was done traditionally this way does not make it a good. There was another kid who was told to dress up like Hitler, and was encouraging all this anti-Semitism in the hallways at a high school. I think it was having.
What the fuck, America? Oh my God.
Welcome.
And here I am going, what in the world? I leave education and y'all
like the pickiest, most country part of Canada. And there's not a fucking chance in hell any of that would happen here. None.
Oh my God.
None.
Wow.
Not a chance.
Yeah, upstate that wouldn't. I don't think. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't happen in the Northeast. We're close to you, Shan. So we can rub off.
That's right. You're in the hickiest, most fisherman village part of the states. We're neighbors. You get it.
Real lobster.
Pick those bastards up off the beach.
I miss living up there, guys. Now I live in fucking Texas.
I know.
At least it's like just starting to get warm. So
Yeah,
if you
that's
like
Oh,
nice weather, then stay where you are.
it's been a sauna here. It's
Oh, okay.
been a sauna.
It's truly
Ugh.
beautiful right now. You should come visit. It's really, really beautiful up here right now.
that's
We'll go kayaking. I'll take you.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, for real.
I'm thinking about going to Maine and
I'll be up there in August. Maybe we can plan something.
oh, hell yeah! I'm going to Maine with Paul.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, Shannon, what?
Where?
I'm going to Maine in August.
Maybe we
Are
should
wait, are
have
we
this
saying on air where we're talking about? I
You
don't
don't
think
want
so.
weirdos to show up, do ya?
Maine is not that big. I mean, it's not that small.
That's true, but let's leave this talk for offline.
Yeah. Anyway, Innocence.
Babies.
Childhood and innocence.
It is.
Yeah. So, well, Shannon made a really good point about the kind of dichotomy, or well, the whatever of of like sexuality versus violence being okay in like a religious context. And I just wonder, like, I don't know how I would draw that line as a parent. You know, I'm sure that every parent has to just figure it out for their own moral compass, and they don't really know what's going to be too much for a kid, for one way or the other. Like they talk about like sex education starting really, really young and wanting to keep it appropriate, but how do you decide what line is appropriate? I don't know.
Question.
As a kid who's like, I'm a mother who has a kid that's 8.5.
Yeah.
And I can tell you what's really, really great is that I don't need to make up two sets of moral principles, one that he has to apply to himself in situations, and one that applies to somebody else, but not him. But he needs to understand why it doesn't apply to him, but applies in this situation, but doesn't apply in that situation.
Right.
Like I don't have to muddy the waters in order to justify things that are objectively god awful. In order, and he doesn't have to struggle with me saying killing people's wrong. Here's a story in the Bible where God killed literally everyone on earth. Wrong. Like I don't have to. I don't struggle with those. I can just set up a set of moral principles that aren't ambiguous. They aren't situational. They're just moral principles, and I can talk to him about critically assessing them based on his own internal introspection and measurement of society external of him. And those are the only keys that I need. And there's no other justification muddying the water, chipping away at that, causing any dissonance in his mind about whether or not there's a contradiction in those moral systems, because there's just the friggin' one.
Yeah, that's really a really big distinction. I do think that was the strange getting over that hump between like, when you become like kind of not innocent as a Christian, you know, that like shift between like, wait a minute, there's something isn't adding up in terms of like sexuality, like David and Bathsheba and his sexuality. And I understand that wasn't praised, but it also wasn't severely punished, you know, not in the way that you would think. And in terms of like violence, I also think that what you were saying, Courtney, about like violence and God, or violence and sexuality, how they're sort of different. I do think that God and Jesus in the Bible have not in the extra books, and not for Catholics, but Jesus didn't really have a sexuality. And God doesn't have a sexuality, but there's a lot of violence and anger with God, and a little bit with Jesus, not a ton. And I do think that's why violence is like sort of more accepted.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because like God isn't aligned with sexuality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a clear, like, if I want to be like Jesus, I need to have this sexuality. You know what I mean? But there is a clear, like, if I want to be like God, well, then this type of violence is okay because God, you know, punishes the evil and is just to the wicked.
Like righteous anger is okay, but there's no like justified sexuality. I
Right.
mean, I guess like within marriage, but it's kind of, at least in my upbringing, it was just kind of like you don't talk about it. It doesn't exist until you're
Right.
married, and then it does. I don't know.
Right.
Even after marriage, it's a very specific kind of sexuality too.
Yeah.
So I know. Mel, I want you to. Mel can close. I know Shannon has a hard stop at 10, so I'd love to let Mel close.
Yay.
Okay, just really quickly, if anybody's curious about how to speak to your kids about sexuality, a friend of mine, he lives in the UK, but all of his resources are available online. It's BISH training, BISH training. It talks about not only about sexuality, it's for usually around 11 and older, but also what healthy relationships look like. Which is really, really important. Consent, healthy relationships, as well as, how to talk to your kids about sex. So check him out. And this has been great. You guys are great.
Yeah. We did go off topic a ton.
That never happens.
But yeah, so we'll be back next month, and then we've got another show in 2 weeks with the other women of deconversion. And soon we'll be like moving fluidly between if any of us want to join, and then we'll have other stuff coming up. So thanks for joining us. One Atheist, One Witch, Andy DeWitt, I can't do it. Ataraxian Gadfly. The Skeptical Bible First was here for a second. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks, girls, for coming out. And we'll see you in a month.
Bye.
Yay.
Bye.